And we're on day 2 of a protest by SSANU, a joint protest by SSANU and NASU, which are to highlight their grievances over, well, I'm sure they would enumerate what the grievances are in a moment. But these issues just seem unending in Nigeria's tertiary education sector. Just yesterday, we had a conversation with the president of ASU and also NASU as well. And I did recollect the comrade from SSANU saying, look, we have a moral burden to ensure that our students go back to school. We're going to be asking our guest this morning if he shares that view of his colleague. We have with us this morning Comrade Mohammed Ibrahim, who is a national president, Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much.
Shall we say a happy new year? Is this year going to be a happy one for our students who are looking forward to returning to school?
Yeah, I think we have no reason to doubt that the year will be good, even though maybe with some challenges. We in SSANU are progressive by nature, and anything that will retard any development, we don't associate ourselves with it, except when we have no other choice. And probably that is why we have a different strategy of driving home our points. At every opportunity we have, we try to do more of engagements and ensuring that our homes are put, our points are put to the right channel. And you also have mentioned that the university system probably is likely to face some challenges. Yes, we do. We are facing some challenges because government, for us, is not really serious about, improving the education sector of Nigeria.
So for some people, they'll say when government addresses ASU's demands, they know invariably very soon they're going to see SSANU or NASU's demands as well. Is it some sort of rivalry? Because snippets of what we're getting now says that this is about a 40 billion naira, which the federal government plans to release to the university system, but which ASU is going to be getting which is the academic staff union now, the teaching staff, will be getting 75% of that, and you think that that is unjust. Is that correct?
Well, let me just put the record straight. We have no reason to, be rivals to ASU. We are partners in progress. They are our colleagues who are doing a different job from ours. The university cannot exist without ASU. It also cannot exist without SSANU and NASU and NAT, because we play complementary roles. So it is not about rivalry. We have no reason to, antagonize anyone's, ambition or work. If you are talking about 40 billion, well, probably the question is coming at the wrong time. Because government, before this 40 billion, had promised SSANU and the other non-teaching staff unions 30 billion naira. And for your information, this is about the 4th tranche. It's not even the first, nor is it the second. Government had paid this money in different tranches, probably because it didn't have the enough resources or quantum of resources that is required to offset this backlog of arrears. We are talking about arrears of and allowances. Which is
that is for ASU or for SSANU?
For all the university, four university-based unions. Okay. We have 4 unions in the university, okay. ASU, NASU, SSANU, and NAT. And government did enter an agreement with the 4 unions and, completed and signed those agreements in 2009. Precisely, ours was in November 2009. And if you look at the agreement, one of it is the payment of and allowances. And government was not under duress when it signed that agreement. And for us, the allowances are specific for some members of staff who do specific jobs. None of the allowances cut across except probably hazard allowance. So I don't know what is the hard and fast rule about some people looking at it as if we are just taking a largesse, for our membership. We deserve these allowances. And that is why probably government is convinced that we deserve it, and they approved it, and we signed an agreement, and that such monies were going to be paid, and that such monies were paid before. Our contention now is that the modus operandi of sharing the money, if you had promised us 30 billion and you never gave it, and then another sister union came, they fought for their own also, and probably you saw the need to pay the monies because of the pressure, and then you are giving 40 billion, and it was made explicitly clear by the Minister of Labour that we are giving this 40 billion for the 4 university-based unions. He never mentioned any formula. And that was why yesterday I was taken aback when we heard that government had even released the money, and that it confirmed that it was 75-25. And I had to describe it as evil, because if you had 4 unions and then you are giving one union 30 billion, and then giving 3 unions 10 billion naira, how best can you describe this? So we have no problem with ASU. Government can give them 100 billion if they deserve it, but we also have our money. So if you want, give ASU their money, give SANU, NASU, and NAT our own money separately from ASU. But if government is trying to put our heads together on a collusion course, that is where it happens. That is where it happens like this, giving 40 billion and sharing it, in a skewed formula that puts people, at a collusion course.
You say that you're not being antagonistic towards the sister union, ASU, but some people will beg to disagree. Over the years, we have seen just how relationships have not exactly been on best of terms. Even yesterday on our program, to any discerning mind and any discerning eye, you could see that, there were strains, so to speak, so that when your colleague in Lagos spoke about a moral burden, the president of ASU was saying who precisely is carrying the burden. I mean, they are also interested in the students going back to school. And one of the first things you mentioned is the fact that you like a different strategy. It will mean a different strategy to what ASU has employed so far. They have been on a very prolonged strike. This is not the first one, though. They've had longer strikes before, but this is a strike that has been unprecedented, so to speak, and it's over the matter of their own allowances. Now the money has come out. For them, it's been hard fought, and they're saying, "Look, why are you, raising, issue with this?" They're saying, fight for your own rights as well. Would you say that you have been as aggressive as ASU has been in pushing for your rights in such a way that when government wants to consider, they should think that they should give you quite a bit more?
Well, like I said, we have a different strategy. We must not copy and paste, because ASU wants to go on strike and they do prolonged strikes. We must not do the same. I cannot speak on behalf of ASU, but I can speak on behalf of SANU. Our strategy is that we do more of engagements. We engaged government. After waiting, this agreement was signed in 2009. This is about 11 years. And
so was ASU's agreement as well?
Well, I speak for my agreement. And that on the 20th of October 2020, which is about 3-4 months ago, government signed a memorandum of understanding with the 2 unions, SANU and NASU. And in that MOU, 2 weeks timeline was given to address problems that has arisen now that we are going on we have started this protest.
For bodies, for unions that are supposed to complement each other, when you know that without one, the other cannot work, you don't seem to be in tandem, so to speak. They have just gotten their funds. You haven't even embarked on any strike, but you are getting something anyway. Don't you think that is as a fallout of what ASU has fought for?
Let me correct the impression.
Yeah.
When you say their funds, I don't know how it becomes their funds. The Minister of Labour was very clear when he said that government is giving money to the university unions. He never mentioned that this money is for a union.
Yeah, but I mean, he was also quite clear on how the money was going to be distributed.
No, he never mentioned about the formula.
maybe not on TV, but how did ASU come about, or how did the formula come about?
Now, I want to believe that that happened outside the Ministry of Labor. I don't want to say where, but I can assure you that we met with the Minister of Labor. And except if what he told us was different from what happened, I mean, in his ministry, that money, 40 billion, was meant for the 4 university-based unions, and that he never gave any formula for sharing that money. And let me also make it very clear to you here that for us in SSANU, because SSANU is a melting pot, we have all sorts of professionals in this union. We have accountants, we have engineers, we have teachers who teach in the demonstration schools, we have administrators, we have engineers, we have medical doctors, we have nurses. Think of whatever profession you have in this planet Earth populated in our membership. And that therefore, we do not just sit down and then do things haphazardly. So when government met us on the 20th of October 2020, we signed an MOU, and in that MOU, there was a 2-week timeline that was given to address all the myriads of problems, one of which is the issue of these allowances. Outside that, we also have issues about the difficulties we have in accessing our salaries, because we have mutilated salaries. Because at some point, when we were the first to encourage members to accept the IPPIS, because government did inform us that the idea of IPPIS was to fight corruption in the system. And because we are involved in the system, we know that certainly there was corruption going on, and we encouraged it. And they came and demonstrated to us that all the peculiarities that exist in the university system were captured, only to realize that it never is not so. And that people, still today, we have some of our members who have not received salaries in the last 3, 4, 5 months. So this is also something that antagonizes the relationship between the union and government, because if you work and you don't get paid, there are issues. Outside that, we also have issues with the state universities. Most of the states' governments decide to just go and establish universities without the corresponding funding. In our membership in the state universities, they are languishing in poverty, because in some universities owned by state governments, for about 10 months, some have not been paid salaries. So these are some of the problems. But the issue is that people don't talk about all these other problems, but the 40 billion.
No, but that's not why you're protesting right now.
Yeah, that is why we're protesting.
It's part
we
of
have
the
7
reason.
issues.
Yeah.
7 issues. It is just one out of the 7 that you are mentioning.
Because
that is the 40 billion.
It's a major one. It's the one that has...
It's not major. We are not doing it in any scale of preference.
Is it not the one that has triggered?
It's not.
This
if
protest?
there is anything like that, I would have said even the areas of the national minimum wage, which government has promised us that it was going to be paid before the last day of the year. And up till 12 midnight of 31st of December, everybody was keeping vigil to wait, because our civil servants in the MDS were all paid. Only members of staff in the tertiary institutions were the ones that have not been paid. So if there is anything that even touches us more, is the minimum wage areas, which have been denied us, and that we have been promised, and that we have been shown that government has approved it, and that it was only the payment that we were waiting for. And it never came to see the light of the day. And you knew also the reaction of the economic forces. Immediately, the minimum wage was increased. And our members also go to the same markets. So outside that, we also have issues about our members who have retired and could not access anything in form of pensions or their entitlements.
So just a quick one. Are you saying that, of the 7 that you have, if every other one is tackled, apart from this 40 billion, this sharing formula for this 40 billion, will this sensitization protest, will it stop?
Well, to protest is to drive home a point. And that is why I told you up initial that our strategy is different from others. We would have also given a strike notice and then go on strike. But because we feel for the nation, we also feel for the populace. In these universities, we have our children, we have our brothers, our sisters, and some of us are poor. We cannot afford to send our children abroad. Our children abroad to go and study. And that is why we must not, antagonize or be a cog in the wheel of, the development of our educational system. And whatever we can do, we will try to do to ensure that the system floats.
Let's go to Lagos now. Ayo has some questions for you.
Well, thank you, Malkwe. Well, comrade, the papers this morning are also indicating that after Thursday, after day 3, there will be a next line of action by your association, your union. What would that next line of action be?
Well, at the risk of preempting what the Jack National will do, I will tell you that we normally appraise situations. And in our calendar of events is that after the day 3 protest, we will assemble in Abuja here and then appraise the situations, because we will get our reports from the branches. Well, the members of the 4th Estate or the RIM are doing very wonderful job, because we can also see that everywhere in Nigeria is sensitized. And the major aim of our protest is to sensitize government. Tell them that, look, you have a problem. And your problem is that you are not honoring agreements. And from agreements, we have moved to MOUs. And MOUs are becoming just a charade. You sit down, discuss, take tea, and then sign MOUs, and it never see the lights of the day. So after day 3, Jack will meet. We will appraise the situation, and we will let the world know our next line of action. But whenever you see the 2 unions, NASU and SSANU, meet, any decision we take will be in the best interest of the system and also our membership.
Well, you also were quoted as saying that this protest is just a tip of the iceberg. Is a strike in the horizon?
Well, as you may have also known that in the labor laws, strikes are not an abnormal thing. We can also go on strikes. But whenever you see us go on strike, it's the last option. We don't jump at strikes. We are not strike trigger union. We go to strikes when it becomes inevitable. So I would not foreclose that if government does not listen, of which I don't want to believe, because engagements have already started, we will go on strike.
Now, in all of this, what would you say the role of the management of the universities have been at the various universities, to the best of your knowledge? How well, if any at all, if any role at all, the universities themselves have, the management of the universities have, how much do you think they can influence anything in all of these?
Well, the university is established through a statutes of law, and that there is a council, which is the highest policy-making body, then is stemmed to the management. Like I mentioned somewhere else, government is making this problem self-induced, because in the first place, these monies, if government is serious about peace and harmony and tranquility in the system, they shouldn't have given these monies in the name of unions. They should have given this because both members of staff who are members of ASU and SSANU or NASU are staffers of the university. The first tranche that was given, government gave the allocation to the universities, and that it was given through the councils to the management. And the managements are pretended by the vice chancellors. And under the vice chancellor, you have the registrar, you have the bursar, who have the instruments of whoever that works in the university. For any member of staff that is employed, he has his appointment letter and terms and conditions of service, and that everybody knows the allowances that he or she deserves. So if these monies are given to the university councils or university managements, all this hula baloo will not be there, because the right thing will be done. But when you call out a union and say, I'm giving you this, and then when has union become an institution of governance? Unions are supposed to be pressure bodies where you sit down, aggregate ideas, lobby, and then persuade government to do certain things, and you take care of the welfare and well-being of your members. But government has no business giving monies to the unions. This is our position in SSANU. Government should give these monies to the universities, and the universities are there, established by law, and every member of staff is supposed to be guided by the rules and regulation in the university. That is our position.
Well, it's interesting that you've brought this angle to the conversation, because I remember sometime in November last year, during your second National Quadrennial Delegates Conference, that idea was dropped that the federal government was considering unifying the unions in the universities, SSANU, SSANU, NASU, under one union. Is that something, do you think that could solve the problem, so it's to one union and not to four?
If you are a good student of history, you would have known that ab initio, when the system started, there was only one union in the university system. So I will not be able to explain why the difference in the different unions. But for any progressive-minded person, I don't think anybody will be antagonistic to having a unified union for the university workers, where each and everyone's rights and privileges will be respected. But where you have issues is when your members or some section of the community is not treated, the way they are supposed to be treated. Part of the problems and grievances is also the usurpation of headship of non-teaching units in the university, which is also against the extant laws of establishment in the country. Because you have a situation whereby some people abandon their primary assignments and taking over the jobs of others who are employed. I give you an example. You have, yes, the university runs a community system, but some of it, the best I can describe is crazy, where you have probably a professor of history, taking charge of a committee to distribute diesels, in diesel fuel in the university, or electricity distribution, when you have a director of works with full complement of staff, from deputies to chiefs and so on. So these are some of the things we are saying. Or you have an academic staff taking charge of the distribution of hostels, allocating dormitories and giving out mattresses when he has abandoned his primary assignment. So these are some of the grievances we are saying and calling the attention of government that, look, you better call a spade, allow everybody to do his job. So once this is done and there's harmony, there's peace and tranquility, the system will flow. These are our colleagues. Some of them are our brothers, our sisters, our wives and husbands. So we have no problem, antagonizing anybody doing his job. But when you poach on my job, certainly I will not sit down and look at you. And that's why the unions are there.
Well, the examples you gave are quite telling, but people will ask if at the end of the day, there can be a way that, both of them will ever come together. I mean, I already asked that question. But moving forward, what has been the response of government to your demands? What exactly have you heard so far? Today will be day 2, but I'm sure that before now, you must have tried to get across to government officials to say, what is going on here? This is our grievance. This is our situation. How come we haven't heard anything, by now? And this is what we plan to do. What have you heard so far?
Well, officially, I wouldn't be able to say that we have heard anything, but unofficially, I can also tell you that contacts are made and that we've been, approached by government, and that we hope and pray that before the end of the day 3, something positive will happen. Like I said earlier, that we are doing this not because we are happy doing it, but because we are forced to do it.
Are you still in support of IPPIS, which has been a real bone of contention? Are you still in support of it? I
mentioned here that we were the first union to welcome IPPIS.
Indeed, but I'm asking if you're still in support of it, considering how it's been implemented and how it hasn't favored you.
Well, with the current situation, nobody will tell you that is happy with IPPIS. But I can also inform you that yesterday I visited IPPIS office and I've seen some level of transformation in that place. But until and unless we see it, directly touching us, we will not be able to say. You know that before the change in the leadership of IPPIS office, so many things have happened. It was in the public glare. But the new leadership in IPPIS have promised, and we are hoping, because we have also started engaging them. You see, in our own union, we are not, quick at condemning things. When you see us talk about things, we must have done our jobs. And that is why I have visited the IPPIS office and I have engaged them. I've told them where our problems are and that they have promised that some good things will be done. But until and unless that is done, we will not give them a pass mark.
So many things to discuss. We wish we could take you up on this issue of the coronavirus and how, prepared your members are to face it, considering the fact that the federal government is talking about resumption. But sadly, we have run out of time. Hopefully, we will stay on the matter and see how follow up on, the outcome of your protest and your engagements with government on the demands that you have raised. But we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Comrade Mohammed Ibrahim is a national president, Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities. Thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you.